Hello and welcome to 15 for 15. I am your host, John Zalkin from RKW Residential. 15 for 15 is a new and exciting video series where we interview 15 influential real estate people for 15 minutes each. We will also get their perspective on what is happening in real estate during COVID-19. A little bit about RKW. RKW Residential is an award-winning third-party multifamily property management firm with over 20,000 multifamily units under management and a growing footprint spanning 6 states. RKW delivers expertise in multifamily management through its technology, marketing, and customer experience platforms. My guest today is Phil Rosen from Becker and Poliacoff. Phil is the chair of the firm's real estate practice group. His practice is focused on commercial and residential real estate matters and business transactions. Phil, it is great to see you, and thank you so much for taking the time to join me on this episode of 15 for 15. I know you are super busy, but I really wanted to get your perspective on what you're seeing in the real estate markets today. Can you briefly expand on your bio and then tell us what you are seeing in the markets right now?
Sure. So, John, thanks first and foremost for having me on here. I am honored to be your first guest on here, and I'm excited about this. It's good to see your mug right now. I haven't been seeing nearly as many people as I'd like to lately.
Yes.
So first and foremost, what I do is I run our law firm's real estate department. We, in our department, are transactional in nature. We represent investors, developers, lenders. So we're in every transactional aspect of real estate all throughout the country. So we represent a ton of owners, landlords right now who are getting letters from tenants saying they can't pay their rent. And we'll dive into that in a little bit. So overall, what we're seeing is that, number one, most transactions that were in the due diligence phase have canceled. Because at this point, it's been really hard for people to understand what the value of the property that they're looking to buy is, right? So that's been one major item. Deals that are already past due diligence and are either cash or the financing was lined up and almost ready to go, those deals have closed or they're about to be closed. My clients are actually rushing to get those closed because they didn't know what was going to happen with the capital markets. So that's on the purchase side. Oh, and the last thing is new contracts. I don't expect to see any new contracts in the short term, meaning a month or 2 months. I don't expect to see any because the big date that's out there is tomorrow, right? It's April 1st. That's when rents are due. That's when mortgage payments are due. So if you are buying a property or you own a property that's driven by rents, which is, the whole name of the game in real estate, nobody really knows to the extent to which they're going to be paid. So everybody is taking a wait and see approach. So you can break it down by asset class. Multifamily. All right, I've been speaking with my multifamily clients, and they're not really sure at this point what to expect. They know that there are going to be plenty of tenants who don't pay, and the party line is, if you can prove to me that you lost your job, then we'll talk. Because really, what's happening? They're going to get a stimulus check, most of those tenants, right? And those tenants are also worried they're not going to have their job in a month. The good thing is that one of the best parts of that stimulus bill, John, if you kind of dove into it, is this, it's basically this payroll item where the government is, quote, lending payroll money to all these businesses to keep them afloat for 2 months as long as they don't lay anyone off. So that's really been something that's kind of given a lot of people confidence. So while unemployment is going to be at record highs, I think you're going to have far fewer people who are going to lose their jobs as a result.
Yeah, no, I looked into it, and through the SBA, I believe, is the one that's going to be allocating the money through the banks. So we know of a lot of our clients and a lot of people that are going to be utilizing that as well, which should help. I think you nailed it. I think April 1st through the 6th is going to be interesting. But then I think going out into May is going to be even more because I think some people had their money saved. They worked through most of March and they'll go ahead and do it. But I thought it was interesting what you said about how you have clients rushing to close the transaction. because we have a few clients that are as well still moving forward and closing on their transactions. We've also heard of some deals being retraded where the buyers are coming back and wanting a discount on the purchase. Have you had any retrades or anything on your side of the market?
You know, it's weird. We haven't. It's been really cut and dry. It's interesting. Developer clients who had stuff under contract, under due diligence, it wasn't even a question. They just said, we're canceling right now. We think it could be cheaper. I had a really interesting phone call with a client who was under contract to buy a $2.5 million condo in Fort Lauderdale. And he called me and he said, hey, you know, what does my contract say? I said, look, it's the basic residential form contract. You don't really have much of a right to get out of it. He said, well, you know what? My deposit is $200,000. He said, I'm trying to do the math right now to figure out if I come back in 3 or 4 months, no one's going to buy this between now and then. And maybe I get a $500,000 discount on it. So maybe I just walk away from my $200,000 deposit. You know, it's the residential part is not what I do every day, but clearly I'm dealing with someone who's intelligent and sophisticated. So I was happy to go through that conversation with him. So I think that's what's really gone on. You know, I've talked to a few of my friends who are lenders, and the biggest issue is that you don't know how to price your asset right now because you don't know what the rent flow is going to look like. So there might be people who are thinking, all right, this could actually present a tremendous opportunity. So I'll get into the opportunity thing in a minute. Let me just run down quick with my other tenants, my retail clients, right? We have a lot
I just wanted to chime in for 1 second because I'm a multifamily guy and obviously that's our world, but a lot of multifamily has retail on the bottom. So we have a lot of tenants that have it. So I'd love for you to touch on what you're seeing in the retail side as well, so we can also see how that's being affected in this environment.
So retail is a little more tricky, right? Because there are businesses that are quote essential, and you know the list is really long. But that's a good thing in a sense because we all need food. You know, they need Home Depot and Lowe's to be open because if things go wrong in people's houses, they need to be able to fix them. There are a ton of businesses that are still open. On the landlord side, I have many landlords who have been getting these stock letters from the biggest companies like McDonald's, Taco Bell. And while it may not always be from the actual corporate, it could be from some of the large portfolio owners. And the letters basically said, we don't really want to pay you rent for the next 3 months. And we may pay you April's rent, but we're definitely looking to not pay you 3 months rent. We'd like it either abated or waived, etc. And so most of my clients' leases do not permit a tenant to do that. What those letters are intended to do is to open up a dialogue. And I tell my landlord clients and my tenant clients, look, you have to have a dialogue. This is a relationship. It's still not put your check in the mail and don't call me. You still have to work with people. So the advice I'm giving my landlord clients is, first of all, you should be taking this 1 month at a time because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this whole COVID thing, this hasn't been like a month to month or week to week thing. This has been like an hour to hour thing. Yeah. Right? Every hour, different news comes out. The news cycle seems to have slowed down a little, but it's still like if you don't pay attention for 3 hours, something might change drastically. So I'm telling them, look, go on a month-to-month basis. Don't extend 90 days with anybody. Second of all, they've got to go open kimono. They need to give you financials because with a lot of the tenants, they're not required to give you store level sales, especially like if you've got like a McDonald's or a Wendy's as a tenant, they generally don't like to give that. So you can get that information from them. You can negotiate that because when you go to sell your property or a refi, if you can show the in-store sales over a long period of time, you usually can secure better financing. So I tell them to take advantage of it, get their finances, and let them show you how their business has been affected. At the end of the day, you don't have to work with them, but it's in your best interest to work with them because in the long run, you still would like to maintain a good relationship. And I've been telling my tenants the same thing. You better be prepared to go open kimono and show them everything that's going on. It's your best bet right now. So again, April 1st is going to be a big deal. And here's why landlords may or may not be willing to grant these abatements. The banks, from what I have been told by my clients, have been willing to give 60 or even 90-day forbearances almost sight unseen. You call them, if you can get someone on the phone, generally they'll say yes.
And this is across all assets you're seeing in the multifamily, retail. All,
Every asset class.
okay.
Yeah. The one exception is CMBS, which is challenging because with CMBS, the beauty of CMBS is the lower interest rate that you get, and they give you they give you more money on the loan.
Right.
But the downside is you don't have a relationship to talk to. You've got someone somewhere that has a list of, how many thousands of assets that they're responsible for. And now they're sitting in their cramped apartment in Manhattan with their wife and kid and dog. And now they're expected to have conversations that, determine whether your business sinks or swims and whether you can help your tenants. So the CMBS world is still pretty tricky because generally they don't even like to talk to you without getting a fee. So it's going to be
Have they
interesting.
started the special servicing yet? Like
No,
putting loans
no.
into special servicing yet? They have not.
Yeah, they're not in default. I remember back in '08, no lender would talk to you unless you're in default. So people strategically went into default just so they could have a conversation with you. The lenders mostly learned from that, but CMBS just isn't set up that way. So I'm interested to see how that plays out.
So talking a little bit about what you were saying with tenants and evictions and all that, I want to touch base a little bit on evictions. And I know in cities and counties and states, everything is a little different. In our world, in the multifamily world, Fannie and Freddie, I know, is starting to work with borrowers if they stop the eviction. So give us, if you have any insight onto what's happening with evictions, so we can get like a little bit of an overview.
So just the way evictions work, that the sheriff or the police are the ones that actually execute on the writ of possession, which means you've won your eviction case, and now the sheriff has to go pull the tenant out and give you access. The police aren't doing that right now, so they've got their hands full. So the police are doing with other things, and so it's really kind of a matter of public policy. I think with evictions, everyone just has to take a wait and see approach. The courts are moving very, very slowly now. There's only emergency hearings, if that, depending on where you are. So I think you're not really seeing a lot of evictions. Look, in the business world, right? It doesn't behoove the landlord to throw a retail or industrial tenant out, because who they're going to replace them with?
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah, so the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know right now. So most people will sit. Will some people take advantage? Absolutely, people always take advantage, and you'll probably see that in the multifamily world. People taking advantage right now, but at the end of the day, people are scared, they're worried, and as long as the banks are playing ball with the owners, that takes a lot of pressure off of the owners in terms of not having to evict their tenants. So that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, we're seeing across the board, we work, since we don't own or develop, we strictly third party manage, we don't have one set of criteria. So each owner is giving different directives. So we're trying to work with them and to say, if somebody's coming to us, and we'll see more in the next 5 to 7 days, if somebody has been laid off and they have the forms and they filed unemployment, there are definitely protocols in place, little things to do like waive the credit card fees for people so they can pay on their credit card and you don't charge them the fees. Waive pet fees, waive the ancillaries, and trying to work with somebody to say, hey, look, let's at least get some money in the door. We're doing daily delinquencies, which reminds us of the old days in 8 and 9 and 10, which I don't even think it was, it's much different. Like you said, to touch on the unemployment hitting into the 30s. So I think owners are trying to work with the tenants. I think the banks are trying to work with the owners. I think with the $2 trillion that came out in stimulus, with another who knows how many more trillions coming out soon, I think everyone's going to be working with each other to try to have the softest landing as possible. But when you start inching up into the 30s and unemployment, there's definitely going to be some pain and, unfortunately for a lot of people. Listen, I want to thank you for all the insight and knowledge that you put forward. I have this little thing called a lightning round where I'm going to rattle off a few questions for you. Quick yes or no or over under answers. Let me know your thoughts on it, and then we will go ahead and wrap the interview up. You ready for the lightning round?
Do it, baby.
Let's do number one. Does the 10-year close under 1% in 2020?
Yes.
Next time you were on an airplane, over under 90 days.
Over.
Next time you attend a networking event, over under 90 days. I know you love those networking events.
I'm going to say under. I can't help myself.
Next lunch or dinner at a restaurant with a client, over under 90 days.
Under.
Is the election going to be suspended?
Absolutely not.
Will Trump win or lose?
I think he's going to lose.
Does the stock market end over or under 20,000 in 2020?
Over.
Does the U.S. COVID-19 infection rate go over under 500,000?
Well, it depends whose method you're calculating, but I'm going to say over.
Okay. And last but not least, do you think you will be on a vacation in the next 6 months?
Absolutely not.
Phil, I really want to thank you for joining me today on this episode of 15 for 15. Everyone, we hope you all stay safe and practice social distancing and make sure to wash your hands. Thank you again, Phil.
Thank you, John. Take it easy, buddy.